The secrets to getting jacked. Now, a lot of you are looking to make gains, so you might not know how to start making these gains, or you're already in the advanced category and trying to eke out the extra 1-2%. Now, before we get started, it is important to remember this one rule, and that is the rule of specificity. Now, this means that there's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all type of workout or routine or even just exercise alone. However, this could vary in terms of contraction type. So for example, like when you're cycling, you're mostly doing the concentric part, or even movement velocity, or even movement pattern, such as swinging a bat. Whatever you will train is what you will reap the most benefit from. There's not always this carryover effect. So for example, if you are used to squatting and you then go over to leg press, you will likely be rather strong on that leg press. However, when you take it the other way around, you usually do leg press and you go over to squatting, you might not be as strong on squat as you were on leg press. Now, with that being said, if you only specifically practice leg pressing and if you only specifically practice squatting, each category you will probably be the strongest in. Now, the first secret to getting absolutely jacked is the mind-muscle connection that you have. Now, this is important because you don't just want to be moving the weights around. This is because you might just be using straight momentum while you're lifting, or you might be compensating with other muscles. For example, if you're doing a bicep curl and you start compensating with your forearms or even with your traps. Imagine really squeezing that muscle. Something that really helps with this too is pre-fatiguing the muscle. So for example, if you are getting ready for your chest day, warm up with some light dumbbell flies before you move on to bench. Or before you do a back workout, try to warm up with some light lat pull downs before doing actual pull-ups. Now, the second secret into getting absolutely huge is by using the full range of motion. Now, I preach a lot on this channel, stretch and contraction. Now, there's a reason for this. It's because every time you lengthen the muscle under tension, under a heavy load, you elicit more hypertrophy that way. When you're stretching the muscle, you're adding a series of sarcomeres to the end of the muscle each time when you start to recover. Think of this as like adding links to a chain. So one really cool trick into squeezing out a little bit of extra hypertrophy is knowing the difference between unilateral and bilateral activation. Unilateral being when you're only using one side at a time, whereas bilateral meaning you're using both at the same time. Now, if you take the sum of the forces between this arm going at once and then this arm going at another time, the sum is actually greater than if you go both of them at the same time. Now, this is kind of like when you do a vertical jump. When you jump up in the air and you try to reach, you reach with one arm because you get more height off of it. When you reach with both arms, you don't get as much height off of it. But as you go one, you get that couple extra inches going. And the same goes for working out for something like your arms, specifically your biceps. This even plays a slight role in this thing called the contralateral training effect, meaning when you work one side really hard, the other side also gets a little bit of those neurological adaptations. And this may be due to the cross-wiring and the spinal and supraspinal connections. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean you have to use it with every single exercise. It's just important to keep in mind for something such as like your biceps, you might get a little bit more strength or hypertrophy if you try this out, just to squeeze out that little bit of extra effect. However, when you're doing something like squat, of course, you're going to be going down at the same time and not always just one at a time as you would in Bulgarians. It's just something to keep in mind in your training when you are possibly plateaued or when you're really just trying to squeeze out that little bit extra. And last but not least, the biggest secret I can share with you is consistency. Now, I know a lot of people say this, be consistent, you'll see the gains. This is one of the biggest and most important things in order to not only get stronger, but to actually get bigger as well. Over time, you recruit more motor units the longer you lift. And this includes the discharge rate or the rate coding, meaning the amount of force you could output as well. Once again, allowing this consistency to be the reason you are not only getting bigger, but much stronger as well. And those are some of the biggest secrets I have in order to get jacked. Now, this is the video YouTube thinks you should be checking out next, so be sure to check it out right here.